Hi, it's Tony Ozanne. On this episode of the Small Interview Project, I'll be talking to Katrina Wybrow from Wybrow and Associates. Today on the Small Interview Project, I'm with Katrina Wybrow from Wybrow and Associates. How are you today, Katrina?
Oh, I'm good, thanks, Tony.
That's good. What do you do at Wybrow and Associates?
Tony, I'm the financial advisor, financial planner at Wybrow and Associates.
Right.
And I specialise particularly in retirement planning and aged care.
Okay.
One of the things I think that makes me quite different is that I really focus on structuring.
Okay.
So where you get your income, how you get your income, can we save tax, can we get Centrelink benefits, can we reduce aged care fees.
Right.
First and foremost, that is where return will come from, having things in the right places.
Sure. So you're not just about selling a particular product, you're more about looking at the overall financial picture for the person.
Strategy 1, strategy 2, strategy 3.
Okay.
It's got to be about the strategy because that's where clients unlock value.
Sure.
Often when you go to parties or you talk to people, they say, what's the next hot investment?
Yep.
Well, I don't know that because if I did, I'd be in Bermuda sunning myself on the beach.
Absolutely.
But what I do know is if I save clients tax,
Yep.
if they're getting the income delivered in the right way at the right time, and if we're reducing aged care fees,
Yep.
if we're maximising Centrelink benefits, if we're not paying too much tax because we're using a family trust or a self-managed super fund.
Okay, so you go right into that level of detail.
Yeah, that delivers returns year on year on year, and it's certain return.
Yep.
Whereas investment markets, as everybody knows, can be up and down.
Yep.
So while we invest sensibly and intelligently, at the end of the day, we have no control over those things.
Sure. So in the aged care space, it's something I've sort of is new to me about, as far as financial advisors going into that sort of area. How do you assist somebody in that regards? Is it more in their finances going into the situation, or what do you do there?
Well, it's really important how your finances are structured if you're going to go into care.
Right.
It's quite a complex area because the first level of assessment is a Centrelink assessment of your income and assets. So the advisor needs to understand the Centrelink rules very, very well.
Okay.
Then the next overlay is actually the aged care facilities themselves and what they charge and
Yep.
how that works. So there are levels of complexity. And then, of course, often older people want a certain outcome that is easy for them to manage and also not too stressful.
Right.
So that is also, I think, probably one of the soft skills that are involved in that you can draw out of people what they really want.
Sure.
Because sometimes it's a process of uncovering because people themselves are not quite sure. They know when something's not right, but they don't, of course, have the skill or the knowledge to know where they need to go to. So that's why they come to me,
Sure.
because I can take them through a process where we can unlock those things.
Okay.
And aged care facilities can be very expensive,
Yep.
but as long as you have the cash flow and you understand what the costs are and how they're going to be met, there can be a lot of choices in making the right decisions.
Okay.
For instance, a lot of people are afraid to pay a bond.
Yep.
But the reality is the estate gets the bond back when you pass away or leave the nursing home, or but about $20,000.
Yep.
It's not quite that, but almost that.
Okay.
And if you pay a bond, you can actually get a choice of your facility.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas publicly funded patients have less places that are open to them.
Okay.
And often a lot of facilities will put you to the top of the list if you are a paying client. So I say to people, don't be afraid of paying a bond, and it can sometimes put people in a better position where they also get reduced fees and more help from Centrelink.
Right.
So their cash flow can actually be better than they think.
Yep.
And even sometimes people are in a dilemma whether to keep the family home or sell the family home.
Yep.
And we can crunch some numbers around that and show people the difference.
Okay.
But I'm always really concerned about the soft issues. How are people feeling? What do they really want? What's important to them?
Yep.
So I like to say there are 3 important things in life. How you live, who you love, and what legacy do you want to leave. And they're the things that really are the values of each individual, and they need to be uncovered in conversations so that people when they have a financial strategy put in place, it feels right, it looks right. It's something that calls them forward to do.
Sure. Okay.
And that's not just about straight technical information.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's more about the person.
Excellent. That's interesting. I didn't realise that was so detailed with the whole financial side and the retirement planning and all those types of things. Katrina, why did you go into business in the first place? How did you get into this gig?
It's interesting. I actually have been a financial advisor now for 22 years, and
Right.
I've been in my own business 8.5. I got my dream job only to find out that perhaps it wasn't. And I think that was really great for me, because I think what it really meant is that I then had the impetus to do business the way I wanted to do business. A lot of the big banking institutions that offer financial services, that employ the bulk of financial advisors, they have a very structured way of dealing with people, and they're not so interested in the ongoing service.
Okay.
And I really get a lot of pleasure, if you like, out of the way I do business and looking after clients year after year.
Yep.
I always say I get 2 paydays. One is I get paid for what I do,
Yep.
but then the other payday for me is working with lovely people
Yeah.
and listening to their life stories and helping them to get what they get.
Yep.
And some of the clients I've had for a very long time, you develop very deep relationships
Sure.
with. So part of the reason for my going into aged care was exactly that, because some of the clients were making some very bad decisions that cost them a lot of money to undo.
Yeah. Yeah.
And while it's not the kind of, let's say, sexiest of areas, it became very obvious to me that it was something that I'd have to get involved with to be
Okay.
of service to those existing clients.
Yep.
And it's interesting because when they first came to me, they were business people earning a lot of money who happened to choose me,
Yep.
and I was grateful. And now that they're older, I feel that I'm repaying that trust
Sure.
by being
Being
of
there.
use to them when they really need me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. You got the whole sort of cycle covered, haven't you? If you had your time over again, would you change anything or do anything differently?
I think I would always say to people starting out in business, get a really good bookkeeper
Yep.
and a really, really good accountant.
Okay.
I had an accountant that I think served my business interests, but when I went into small business, I don't think he was up to the task. Lovely person,
Yep.
but one of the things is as you grow, sometimes the people that are on the journey with you don't grow with you.
Sure.
So I think I should have had a deeper look at that when I started out. And I think if I were someone starting out, I would ask around who they saw as the really good business service accountants, because
Sure.
somebody who might be a good accountant at helping you with your personal tax returns and your business interests, like your investments
Yep.
and so forth, isn't necessarily a good business services accountant.
Yeah, 2 different skill sets, aren't they?
They are,
Yeah.
yes. So I think, and certainly a good bookkeeper,
Yep.
and surround yourself with good people.
Okay.
I think, and getting referrals of others who have been satisfied. Look to people who are successful and model those people.
No, it's good advice. Good advice. What's been your biggest challenge in business then?
I'd say the GFC has been my biggest challenge, because whilst I expected some downturn, I was fairly certain there would be a downturn. I didn't see the magnitude of 50% drop in the market.
Okay.
So I saw a 30%,
Yep.
but I think I, like a lot of people, have had difficulty coming to terms with that.
Sure.
Particularly, I think that scenario hasn't gone away.
Yep.
I think everybody's caught up in the markets rising at the moment.
Yep.
But I actually think that this has more to play out.
Okay.
So it's the challenge for me is how I deal with that. If that knowledge is there,
Yeah, what do you
and how do you deal with that?
Yeah.
And at different stages in the markets, I take different positions on that.
Yeah.
So I suppose the other challenge is to remain fluid. So don't have any set ideas
Yep.
and respond and anticipate as much as you can
Yep.
don't sit on your hands, don't think it's going to get better, and don't think it's all going to go away.
You've got to keep polishing that crystal ball, hey?
You do.
How do you balance working on your business versus in your business, Katrina?
Well, that's really a hard thing, I think, because effectively I'm the main advisor here, and I run the staff, I do the financing for the business, I set strategy for the business. So on any given day, that does seem like a lot sometimes.
Yeah,
so
a lot of hats.
It is a lot of hats, but what I've realised is I need to devolve things to other people.
Yep.
So set up what I want to get out of something, communicate that really clearly to the person doing the task,
Yep.
and then let them run with it. Make sure I'm approachable so that they can come back and get feedback. But more and more, I have the attitude of I don't need another job.
Yep.
I want you to do this, I'd like you to do that, engage other professionals.
Yep.
I think the main thing is having people around you can trust.
Sure.
And people will make mistakes,
Yep.
but you make mistakes yourself.
As long as you learn from them.
Well, and I think I always like to say to the staff, I always want you to try new things,
Yep.
but I want this business to be a safe place to fail,
Yeah.
so that we have checks and balances and that you can be mentored and coached.
Yep.
But you can't always train staff to every situation.
No.
Sometimes they've got to use their own initiative, but I think you have to empower them to do that,
Yep.
and again have some procedures in place so that it's an environment where it's safe to fail.
No, definitely. No, I like that thinking. That's good. And my last question for you is, what advice would you have for newcomers to business? I know you've mentioned a couple of tips throughout, but any key tips?
Yes, I think be very clear about what your end game is.
Yep.
For me, I had a very clear end game in mind about what I wanted to do. I wanted to have a wonderful job and deal with clients the way I wanted to deal with them.
Sure.
That maximised, if you like, the professional enjoyment that I get out of my working life. But I also wanted to have a saleable business at the end of the day.
Yep.
Now, that is a couple of things. When I started out with a desk and a chair in an office with 4 offices.
Okay.
So it looked pretty ridiculous.
Yep.
I can't imagine what clients thought when they came into an empty office with just one room with a desk and a chair.
Big time financial advisor.
Yeah, big ideas.
Yeah.
But I was really clear that I wouldn't be a one-person operator,
Right.
that I would have a team around me, and that I wanted systems and processes and to grow to a certain size. I don't want to be a 10 advisor business.
Yep.
I probably would like one more advisor in the business, so it's a 3 advisor firm. But I would say start with the end in mind. So even if it seems a little bit absurd.
Yep.
And the other thing is, if you think that you're building a saleable asset, do talk to your accountant about setting up the tax structures for that. Now, the first year I started, I realised pretty quickly that I didn't have the right tax structures in place.
Okay.
So I put those in place very quickly, and I'm really pleased that I did, because at some point you will retire, you will sell the business. You want to think about the small business tax concessions, so the capital gains tax rollover relief, the once-off 500,000 superannuation rollover relief. So all up, there's probably about $2 million of concessions that are up for grabs.
Yep.
But the thing is to understand that at the very beginning, and most people when they start out, they're
don't
not thinking
think
like
those sort
that.
of numbers, no.
But being a financial advisor, I was thinking about those things, because it's really important to me that my exit strategy was in place and the financial structures were in place to facilitate that at the end.
Sure.
So I would say, if you think that you've got a business that's going to grow and that's going to be worth something, do put some effort into that up front, because you can't really change horses midstream, because there can be tax implications involved.
Yeah. No, it's great advice, Katrina, and I like the fact of having that big goal to sort of aim for as well, so that's good. I can relate to that. Katrina, thank you very much for your insightful answers on the Small Interview Project, and thanks for your time.
Pleasure.